Hey there, I'm Ken. This is Canadian Retro Things. Welcome. Today, I'm going to talk about some old books and some modern things that came out of those books. Over the last little while, I picked up a couple of things that were based on some old books. Those old books were the Choose Your Own Adventure books. Now, I've done a video about the micro adventure books in the past. I'll put a link to that video. It was something I really enjoyed when I was a kid because it had little programs in it. But the Choose Your Own Adventure books were kind of like you got to move the narrative of the story. And I really enjoyed those as a kid. So I thought I'd take a look at these more modern things that I found. And I'd also quickly touch on the Choose Your Own Adventure books because that's where these things came out of. And boy, did I go down a rabbit hole. There is so much out there that is based around these Choose Your Own Adventure books. I'm going to lightly touch on a vast quantity of different things that were available back then that I didn't even know about. And I'm also going to take a look at a couple of the book series that I had when I was a kid in a little more depth. And then I'm going to take a look at those modern things I picked up. So I haven't really looked at them yet, so I don't know how good they are. But hey, it's going to be a surprise for me and you. But before I jump into looking at those books, I have to say a big hello to my very first Patreon supporter, 8-Bit Show and Tell. So his name will be appearing at the end of the video, but I just wanted to give a shout out, and I've decided that's also something I'm going to do as I get new Patreons. I'm going to give them a shout out at the start of the video to say thank you. And so if you're interested in supporting the channel through Patreon, the link's down below. So let's jump into those books. Now, the first book I'm looking at here is called Explorer Destination Brain. Now, this is from a series called Adventures on the Frontier of Science. There were only 4 books published in this series. It was done in 1987, and it was done by Scholastic, as you can see there. So in this one, you're traveling inside an injured scientist's brain to find the cure for a deadly plague. And as I can just go through it, it's just a regular type of Choose Your Own Adventure, a little more science-y. So as you can see, you get to the end of the page here, and you either do something to go to page 41 or do something else and go to page 44. So it's a more science-y based Choose Your Own Adventure. Obviously not terribly popular because there was only 4 published. And these are the Twist-a-Plot books. These were published by Scholastic from 1982 to 1985 as a response to the Choose Your Own Adventure books. Now, there were 18 books in this series. Kind of interesting that I have 3 of them. And all 3 of these were written by R.L. Stine, whose name you may recognize as, of course, he's most famous for Goosebumps. Now, this was before he wrote Goosebumps, but he wrote 4 of the Twist-a-Plot books, and I just happened to randomly pick up 3 of them that were 3 of the 4 books that he wrote out of the 18 books. So he actually worked on other series in the same genre of Choose Your Own Adventure style books, but that's basically what these are. Get to the things and you do things. This one is these are a little bit different because they do interesting things like right here. You pick a number from 1 to 10 just randomly in your head. And now if you pick 3 or 10, you turn to a certain page. If you pick 1, 4, 5, or 8, you turn to other page. 2, 6, 7, or 9, you turn to a third page. So it's not necessarily making a decision. Some of it is just randomly playing little games like that. You know, they were trying to do different things to set themselves apart from Choose Your Own Adventure. So interesting books worth having a look at. Also from the same publisher are the Pick-a-Path books. These are by Scholastic again. They're basically the Twist-A-Plot books, but they're for a younger audience. There were 17 in the series, and they were published from 1983 to 1985. So, slightly easier reading. Much the same thing. So, yet another Scholastic series. The next one we're going to look at is the Which Way books. These were published from 1982 to 1986 by Pocket Books. There's a total of 24 in the series. And one of the really interesting things here is just the really old-fashioned look to them. I remember buying a lot of secondhand science fiction books in secondhand bookstores that all had very similar looking covers, but they were from like the 1960s. So it really gives you that 1960s look here. So these tried to set themselves apart a little bit by doing things like, let's see. For instance, on page 49 here, you get almost like a riddle. It's a math problem, actually. You listen to the numbers 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and 32. And then you have to give the next number in that progression. And so you either figure it out and turn to that page, or if you can't figure it out, you'll not be able to save the children, which is what you're trying to do in this book, and turn to page 3 and start a different story. So start over again. So if you can't solve the riddle, you're done. So that's kind of an interesting way to... Another interesting thing that they put into these books that I never came across when I was a kid. These ones I'm surprised. If I had ever seen them, these covers would have immediately drawn me to them. So the next book I am looking at is a Find Your Fate mystery. Now these were published from 1984 to 1987. There were a total of 17 books in the Find Your Fate mystery series, and published by Random House. And as you can see, they're actually written by Megan Stein and H. William Stein. I could not find any conclusive stuff on the internet on whether they're actually related to R.L. Stein, but looking at a picture of H. William Stein, I would say at the very least they're cousins, because they look enough alike. Now the other interesting thing about this book is it's the 3 investigators. 4 of the Find Your Fate mysteries were the 3 investigators. And if that at all sounds familiar to you, then you probably know the series from the 1960s, which was Alfred Hitchcock and the 3 investigators. So the Find Your Fate mystery books brought some old 1960s stories into the modern world with the same characters. The more modern world, I mean, this was the 80s, so that was a while ago, but yeah. So it's kind of interesting that they used the same characters from a series from 20 years previous to do these Choose Your Own Adventure style books. The other ones were just pure mystery books. The next books I'm looking at are the Endless Quest books. These were published by TSR, which most people know from Dungeons & Dragons, which means that these books are all based on different types of Dungeons & Dragons games, the ones that TSR published. And yeah, I had these when I was a kid because I loved Dungeons & Dragons. So these were published from 1982 to 1996. There was 3 separate series published. And yeah, as I said, there were TSR books, and they're Dungeons & Dragons based Choose Your Own Adventures. So almost like playing the game, but not quite. There was also a young reader's version of the Endless Quest books, which were the Fantasy Forest books. Now, there were 10 of these published by TSR between 1983 and 1984. So they're very similar to having kind of Dungeons & Dragons themes, but for a younger audience. And a lot more pictures. We haven't gotten to the original Choose Your Own Adventure books yet, but there were some spin-offs that were published by Bantam Books. They are, for instance, the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. These are Choose Your Own Adventure books based on the TV show of the same name. Yes, there was a TV show of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. So this is a basic Choose Your Own Adventure book. Another one of the spin-offs was the Choose Your Own Nightmare series. Now, this was published from 1995 to 1997. There were 18 books in the series. It's kind of a fun read because rather than failing, you usually die in these. So, yeah, a little bit different from the Choose Your Own Adventure books. One of my absolute favorite when I was a kid were the fighting fantasy books. Now, unfortunately, I only ever owned one when I was a kid. Our library never carried them. I only ever found one in a bookshop, and I looked for more of them, but this was not the one I had. But I am very happy to have one again. Now, these were originally published from 1982 to 1995. There were 59 books. This also spawned a role-playing game. It was reprinted in the early 2000s and again reprinted starting in 2017 to the present. I haven't picked up any of the new ones, but apparently there's even new stories being written. Now, why did I love these so much when I was a kid? Because it takes the Choose Your Own Adventure to a whole new level. You have to build yourself a character, very Dungeons and Dragons style. You roll up a character that will have skill, stamina, and luck, and then you go through and you basically have to play a single-player Dungeons and Dragons game to try and make it through the book, or die trying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly get a character sheet ready, and we're going to take a quick look at basically the mechanics of playing this book. So one of the great things about this is making up my character means I get to bring out my D&D dice. Well, all I need is 2 6-sided dice, so. But hey, at least I get to use my D&D dice because I haven't used them in a really long time. I actually don't know anybody that lives around me that I can play D&D with. So, for getting my skill score, I roll 1 dice, and I add 6 to it, so that's 7. Not a great skill. My character is not going to live long. For stamina, I roll 2 dice, so I get 8, and I add 12 to it. So my stamina is 20. And luck, I roll 1, and I add 6 to it, so I've got 12 luck. Now I have filled out other items on here that I need to do for playing the game. So at one point in the book, I'm hired by a wizard to go and try and stop something. So I've got a choice of 10 spells here, and I have to choose 4 of them because that's all he has time to teach me. There's Open Door, Creature Sleep, Magic Arrow, Language, Read Symbols, Light, Fire, Jump, Detect Trap, and Create Water. I chose Open Door, Magic Arrow, Read Symbols, and Detect Trap. So now that I'm done that, I go to 180 to start my journey. So I will jump back in when I find something interesting. Alright, I've just come across a part where 2 dark elves have slaughtered some farmer, so I am attacking them basically because I'm a good guy. I could have walked away, but I've decided to attack. Now, the way that I do it is they have their skill and stamina at the bottom of the page here, so I write that down on my page, and then I start by rolling 2 dice. So 4, and you attack them one at a time. So I add the skill to that for the first one, which is 5. So 4 and 5 is 9. And then I roll 2 for myself. That's his attack strength. And I've got 7, and 7 is 14. So I have the higher. That means that I have wounded the creature. Now, I can, if I would like, use my luck to do more damage. Normally I would do 2 points of damage. So if I want to use my luck, I've got to roll 2 dice. And it's got to be less than my luck score. So 6, and I have a 12, so yes, which means I do an additional point of damage, which means his stamina goes from 6 to 3. And my luck goes from 12 down to 11. Now, put circles around my original levels because I cannot at any point get above them. If I get injured, I can once a day eat a provision which will replace 4 stamina points, but I cannot go above the 20 that I started with. So I will continue and see who wins this battle. So I've just run into another encounter here, and I'm about to run into a harpy. I have put pieces of my shirt into my ears to save myself from its mesmerizing call. Now I can do either fight the harpy with my sword, or if I know the magic arrow spell, I can use that as it's flying towards me, which I will do. So that costs me 2 stamina. And I shoot my magic arrow, and I killed the harpy instantly. So, good thing I had that magic arrow. To reiterate what's happened so far, walking through the desert, I could not cast create water, so I lost a bunch of stamina points. Then I found something, opened it up. I was hoping it was going to be a pot full of water. It turned out to be poison, which made me lose a skill point and a bunch more stamina. And then I just got into a fight with a sand sniper, which it just made 2 successful attacks in a row against me, which means I'm slowly dragged into the gaping mouth and slowly digested. My adventure comes to a horrific end. So that is the end of my character. Oh, and I was unlucky while I was sleeping, and somebody came along and stole all my gold. So, that's the end of my adventure. But now, I can play it again. I just re-roll a new character and start over again. And now it's time to look at the OGs, the actual Choose Your Own Adventure books. Now, what I have here are some ones that are for younger people. These are actually for, I think, 6 to 9-year-olds. So, as you can see, pictures, bigger writing. And there's softcover ones and hardcover ones. Now, I don't remember ever seeing these younger children ones, but obviously they exist because I have them. So when you have the original books, this is what they looked like. This is book 9, and this was the style of the covers and everything. These were the ones that I read as a child. Now, these were originally published from 1979 to 1998 with 184 books. And as we've seen, it spawned many, many spin-offs, like the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles that we looked at, and the Choose Your Own Nightmares. Now, as the number of the book got a little bit higher, the art changed, the cover changed, it looked a little more modern. So, brought it into the modern world a bit, and then there was some reprintings of it. And here we got a different style looking of the book. And these were by Choose Co. when they were reprinted. So, and then the latest reprinting of the books brought kind of the original look back. As you can see, looking very much the same. The only difference here is that there's kind of a foil look to the embossing on here. There's texture. It's foil. So, yeah. These were the books that I enjoyed immensely as a child. So that brings me to the modern things that I've found that are kind of cool. And those are a game. Now, this game is directly based on the House of Danger book. So it's one of the original books that was made. Now, this was made in 2018, so fairly modern. And we also have an interactive cartoon movie with the voices of William H. Macy and Frankie Muniz. So that's going to be kind of cool to look at, and I haven't even actually looked. So this was from 2006. So, yeah, a little bit older, but still something I've never seen. And I think there is only one movie that they ever made. I've been playing the game for a little bit, so let me explain what's happening here. I've got here a danger meter and a psychic scale. So the psychic scale is how much psychic power I have in this game, which comes in handy in certain parts of the game. If it's high enough, I can spot things and find things. The danger meter is something that I will be showing you in a second, how that's used. Here we have clue cards and story cards. So you take story cards out. Like for instance, this one, it's number 5. You read through it, flip it over, and it's usually got either go to, like here I can go to story card 16 or story card 28. And on here there's also 2 challenges, which I'm going to show you how that's done. And also these are the items I've collected so far. I'm currently playing in chapter 1. There's 5 chapters. So my goal right now is to get inside of the house. I'm currently exploring the grounds. I'm inside of a crypt right now. And I have 2 optional challenges, which are search around the sarcophagus and remove the stone lid of the sarcophagus. And I don't have, one's a sight one and one's a strength one, and I don't have any thing that will help me with that. Sometimes I will have a challenge booster, which will help with my roll. But right now my danger meter is set at 3, which means I will do the, I guess I will try and remove the lid of the sarcophagus. So I roll the dice. I get a 5. If I had rolled a 3, 4, 5, or 6, that means I win the challenge. If I roll less than that, I lose the challenge, and then it's got what you do here. So right now, I draw clue 16 because I won. If I had lost, my danger meter would go up by 2, which then would put me at a 4. So, and it is a bonus story choice. So, because I opened up the lid, I found a secret passageway. So that adds a 3rd choice onto the bottom of this card of what I can do. So that's basically how the game goes. You play through it and try to get to the end and trying to get through the 5 different goals. So I'm going to continue playing this later, but now let's take a look at the interactive movie that I have. Alright, so here we are at the opening. So you've got start adventure, training, bonus materials, setup, and credits. I'll just pop forward through this and get to the part where I actually make some choices in the game, and we'll see how it works, or in the movie. Okay, so it looks like you just get a little bit of time to make a choice here. Parachute out. So now you may be thinking that this looks a lot like that Netflix show, the Bandersnatch that came out in 2019. Well, that Netflix show got sued by the people that owned Choose Your Own Adventure, and it was settled out of court. So This is a precursor and obviously a kid's version of that. So something that you can have for a kid that they can watch over and over again, make different choices to change the story. So that is a look at some of the books that I really enjoyed when I was a kid and some of the modern things that have come out of them. I even found a whole slew of books that I didn't even know existed back when I was a kid, and I've really been enjoying reading them, and I have a lot of them, so there's a lot of reading ahead of me. So it's unfortunate that there was only the one Choose Your Own Adventure movie ever made. I think that would have been great for kids. It would have been something they could watch over and over again and interact with. So that's unfortunate, but hey, at least I have the one that they did make. And the fighting fantasy book and the Choose Your Own Adventure game are really cool. I'm enjoying playing those. As a matter of fact, I'm going to get back to playing the Choose Your Own Adventure game right after this. But they're also perfect because they're both games that I can play by myself because, sometimes you just don't have anybody to play games with. So single player games that aren't a computer game can be kind of fun. But you can also play the Choose Your Own Adventure game with more people. But yeah. So I do have to say a big thank you to my patrons. So watch the screen here. Right now the one name is going by, but hey, remember if you want to support me with Patreon, then you can do that by checking out the link in the description. There's a few different levels that you can do. You can get some early access to the videos and get your name up in lights. All right, well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below because they really do help the channel out a lot. But I will see you later.